Today, we're diving into a massive global health challenge and the really clever software that's been designed to take it on. This is a story about unlocking the power of data to bring some real hope to millions of people. And it all starts with this number. Just let it sink in for a second. Over 260 million people around the world are affected by rare diseases. It's a number so huge, it's kind of hard to even wrap your head around it. You see, for every single person behind that number, research data is everything. It's the key to finding a diagnosis, a treatment, maybe even a cure. But here's the problem. What happens when that crucial data is trapped? When it's fragmented, stuck in different hospitals and labs all over the world? So, to really get why a tool like the one we're talking about today is such a game changer, we first have to understand the sheer scale of the mountain that researchers and patients are trying to climb. I mean, we're not talking about just one disease here. We're talking about over 10,000 different ones. Most of them are genetic, and they usually show up in childhood. For these families, it can mean years, literally years, of bouncing between doctors just to get a name for what's happening. And even then, for most of these conditions, there's no specific treatment. Progress is slow precisely because all the data is so scattered. And that brings us to the main villain of our story. And it's not a disease. It's a problem we kind of made ourselves. It's this chaotic data landscape that's like a digital Tower of Babel, where every research group is speaking a completely different language. Now, a key player in this whole landscape is a piece of software called REDCap. It's used by researchers all over the planet, it's web-based, it's free for nonprofits, and it's absolutely essential for collecting data in patient registries. Okay, so here's the paradox, and it's a big one. The greatest strength of REDCap, the fact that it's so flexible and easy to use, is also its biggest weakness. See, it lets any researcher quickly set up their own database. But that means every single project ends up with its own unique data format, creating thousands of isolated little data islands or silos that can't talk to each other at all.
And this is the core of the problem, right? The researchers themselves point this out. For them to make those big breakthroughs, the data has to be able to flow freely. It has to be understood by everyone. So the bottom line is, we need a universal translator for all this data.
And that brings us to the hero of our story, a framework called RareLink. It's designed to be that exact universal translator for rare disease data. Now here's the really smart part. RareLink doesn't try to replace the tool everyone is already using. That would be basically impossible. Instead, it works with REDCap. It builds a clever layer right on top of the system to solve that big communication problem. So at its heart, RareLink is an open source framework that gives all these different REDCap users a common language to speak. This allows data that was once locked inside a single project to be standardized and shared with health networks all over the world. So how does it pull this off? Well, it lets a local research team take their data and translate it into two universally accepted formats. The first is called Phenopackets. You can think of that as a super detailed, standardized way to describe a patient's symptoms. The second is HL7 FHIR, which is basically the global language for all electronic health records. By converting the data into these formats, one project's findings can suddenly be understood by everyone. All right, so how does this translation actually happen? Let's pop the hood and take a look at how it works. This diagram really gives us the big picture. Let's just walk through it real quick. So over here on the left, you've got your local researchers, and they're plugging patient data into their own REDCap database. That data then flows into the RareLink framework, which is this engine right in the middle. This is where the translation happens. And the result, what comes out on the right, is that same data, but now it's in those standard Phenopacket and FHIR formats. It's clean, it's organized, and it's ready for some serious large-scale analysis. You know, we can boil that whole complicated-looking diagram down to three pretty simple steps. First, researchers capture the data using standardized forms right inside REDCap. Second, they execute a few simple commands. And third, the system automatically exports these clean, standardized data files. That's it. And this slide gives you a little taste of what it's like for the user. On the left, you've got these clean, standardized forms inside REDCap that make data entry way easier and more consistent. Then on the right, you see the command line interface. Now, I know, it might look a little technical, but it's designed to be super simple, using really straightforward commands to kick off the export. The goal was to make this powerful tool accessible, even if you're not a coding whiz.
And this is the prize. The final output is this perfectly structured data in those two global formats. This data can now be plugged into international registries and fed into these incredibly powerful analysis pipelines. What was once isolated local data has just become a priceless global asset.
But this isn't just some technical achievement. By connecting all this data, a framework like this has the power to create very real hope for patients and families all over the world. And it's so important to see that this was a truly global effort. RareLink wasn't just built in some silo. It was developed and tested by a collaboration of teams from Germany, Canada, South Africa, and Japan, proving that this can work across totally different healthcare systems and continents. So when you boil it all down, why does this matter so much? Well, it makes data way more precise, which makes it way more powerful. It connects those isolated registries to cutting-edge analysis tools. It champions the FHIR principles, making data findable, accessible, interoperable, and reusable. And what that all means is that this can actually accelerate the search for diagnoses and treatments, while making research more equitable for everybody, everywhere. But the researchers make a critical point here. The technology is amazing, but its true power, its real potential, is only unlocked because it's a community-driven, open-source project. It's about people all over the world coming together to solve a shared problem.
Which leaves us with this final, really powerful question to think about. What could we actually achieve if every single piece of rare disease data from every patient, in every clinic, anywhere in the world, could be connected and understood?
That possibility, that incredible potential to transform millions of lives, that is the promise of open and interoperable science. And with tools like RareLink, we're getting one giant step closer to making that promise a reality.